Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 543 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording date is Thursday, January 9th, 2025. And it looks like it's going to be a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. Still a little crisp, but that's okay. I mean, it is January, so it should be a little crisp. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And not with me this morning, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. And that explains a little bit as well the reason for the delay. And I apologize for that, kids and cubs. But Mr. Grizzly got a very, very terrible night of sleep last night, and let me know this morning before we started the show that he was not going to be able to do it. And of course, as the show we say, self-care before and everything else. Yes, Kid Playing with 3D. I put the dad jokes book up there since I read from it so much. Figured I'd give them a little credit. Yes, found out, unfortunately for you, kids and cubs, closer to the start of the show. And therefore, I had to program the show. And of course, we know how technologically inclined I am, number one, but also had to come up with a different show pretty much on the fly because I was going to focus on a lot of clips. So, and when I don't have Mr. Grizzly, I cannot show you the clips. So I had to figure out how I was going to do today. And all of this happened about 8 minutes before the planned start. Unfortunately, Mr. Grizzly tried his best, but it was just not going to happen this morning. So I thank you for your patience. And I see in the chat here all the love being sent to Mr. Grizzly from the Kits and Cubs. Indeed, he'll appreciate that very much. I appreciate it very much as well. But yeah, again, all the time, Kits, if you are, of course, it's a luxury sometimes, but if you do have the luxury, self-care above everything else. And that's maybe some words of wisdom a little early on in the show today. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. I see Kit Saucy going, you should be able to share clips on your end, though. I was able to at one point, and then Restream switched a couple of times. And then I kind of lost that ability for some reason. But I said, as you know, Kids and Cubs, we're playing renovation Tetris here. We're this close to finish what we need to finish in the bedroom so that we can move stuff out. And once we move stuff out, and I can remove this desk, build the new desk, set up the actual new computer. I will be able to probably share clips on my own now, given that I now have production ability at the same time as Mr. Grizzly when we're on the show. But solo right now from the phone, I cannot, unfortunately. So, but hey, that's we MacGyver it on this show. It's just what we do because there are days where the technology won't cooperate, even if everything we have full capabilities. So no worries, no worries whatsoever. Uh, we've got a good show for you, no matter what. I would not be the eager beaver if I wasn't prepared for many contingencies, right? Don't want to miss my damn fan rendezvous. Mr. Jim, we love you, not your clips. That's true. But clips help tell a story now and then. All right, kits and cubs. And some really good news here I see in the chat is about Kit Matteo. According to Kit Miss, uh, everything seems to have gone very well. He said that she says Matteo did great. He didn't cry. He was talkative with all the nurses and anesthesiologist. That doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. He's a very gregarious young man. He's in a bit of pain and has a wet cloth on his eyes. So that is good news. He's been resting as much as possible. The swelling and bruising will start soon. It's the calm before the storm, I guess. Yes. I haven't had a surgery to the eye, but I had surgery at another part of my body where I was told that I would feel okay for about a day or two, and then there would be swelling and bruising for about 6 weeks, and then it would stop. And when I got to about like 5 weeks and 5 days, I was still in pain from the swelling and bruising, and it did not look like the swelling was going to go down in the next 2 days at all. Didn't feel like it either. Uh, when I had gone back to the doctor and said, like, there's something wrong because we're like 2 days away from 6 weeks and it's still like this. And they said, no, don't worry. And I said, okay. And I went back home and like literally 2 days later, it's like, oh my God, it was another day. It was like 6 weeks to the day. Uh, yes, but I think about I think it was like 2 or 3 days, no, about a week before. It was actually an election day and we were in line to vote. And I just couldn't stand like I was seeing white. I was about to pass out. And I had to go sit somewhere. And I was just like, oh my word, this is so much pain. So yes, probably the calm before the storm, miss. But he seems to be I'm going to be giving my age here, but a brave little toaster. So I'm sure he'll be fine after it's all done. But I'm glad to hear that things seem to have gone very well with the surgery and that he is doing very well as well. Please give him a big hug on behalf of his friends, Mr. Grizzly and Mr. Beaver. Okay. Now that we've taken care of the very important stuff, DAMFAM stuff is the important stuff. Let's try to get to some news here. All right. Just look and see here in the oh, yeah. See here in the chat. What else do we have here from the kids in case there's some news from other news from the DAMFAM here. All right. No, I don't think so here. Something about a child in Arizona wanting to get a tattoo. Oh, yes. Yes. Could uncover the news. That's a good thing to mention. It is today the state funeral of former President Jimmy Carter in the United States. And of course, Prime Minister of Canada will be there representing us. So, but yes, today that'll probably be big news. A lot of people have been saying that some of the reason that Donald Trump has been running his mouth a lot the past couple of days is because the big star right now is Jimmy Carter, and he can't handle that. Can't handle somebody else being in the spotlight. So he has to make his news. Could be another reason. Who knows? But hey, it's Jimmy Carter Day. And I saw some clips of some Canadian firefighters helping out in California, with the blazes going on there, as we do as Canadians. And, it's not like we haven't received a lot of help over the past few years when it comes to blazes of our own. So, you know, but some people are making the comment, gee, as Canadians are helping in LA, Trump is doing what he's doing, running his mouth that way. I'm like, don't worry. You know, we owed you guys one for what Jimmy Carter did for us anyway. So leave the orange one out of it. This is just between us. Hey, we're Canadians. If we can help, we do. It's what we do, right? So it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we particularly like the people we're helping at the moment or not. Or I should say, not like the people, like the person who's leading, allegedly, the people we're helping at the moment or not. People need help. We help. It's what we do because someday we'll need help. And hopefully people will come to help us too. Right? It's it's just being right neighborly. It's what you do. All right. So, but yes, that is big news, and the Prime Minister will be there. So, yeah, it's that will be the news, and today, and then we'll tomorrow we'll see who it is that tried to pull focus. All right. Kit Mohan goes, he definitely is Douglas speaking about Matteo, a brave little toaster. I think a lot of people have some relatively good memories. As Kit Saucy says, traumatizing but always amazing. Yeah, it's true. It's uh, uh, for maybe for slightly older kids. I was surprised with that too. Actually, when since we're talking movies, if you've ever seen the two Babe movies, the first and the second, if you see the second one, it is very different in tone than the first. I mean, it starts out similar and it ends similar, but in the middle, um, it's a darker movie. Just I remember seeing it. I mean, and I was definitely not a child when I saw Babe the first time, and I fell in love with it. And then I went to go see Babe the second one, and it's like, and I loved it. But I sat there and I was looking at my partner at the time, going, um, "I would not take my 6-year-old to see the second one." uh, but then again, you know. I think it was Roald Dahl, I think it is, was wrote his books, assuming that kids knew enough to handle light and dark, and maybe he was right there. So, but yeah, I do. Yes. So some of the movies are traumatizing. I am very glad that my mother did not agree to let me see Watership Down when I was 6 because, ooh, I saw the poster every time I went by the movie theater and thought, "Oh, cute little buddies, let's go see the movie." And mom's like, "Mm-mm, not yet. This one's not for you." She was right. All right. Yeah, Kitland and Babe 2 definitely got weird. I think it was the same guy that did the Mad Max movies or something like that, that directed that one, or somebody that was associated with that one. So it took a little turn, but it was really good though. it's, it's not fully a kids movie. Okay, uh, let's see. Well, there's still today. Originally, what I was going to do, like I mentioned yesterday, was show you Jagmeet Singh's response, because I mentioned a few shows ago. Now watch Jagmeet Singh become Pierre Poilievre. So we will still do that when we have Mr. Grizzly. So don't worry about that, kids and cubs. I will bring that to you, and maybe a little bit from Monsieur Blanchet. And there was something else, Elizabeth May. Um, really. Um, I don't know what's gotten well, I don't wanna say I don't know what's gotten into her, but she is fired up, and, there's a press conference I think she gave about 4 days ago now, about the Canada-US relationship, and, she, tackled Donald Trump's musings loud about a 51st state, um, head on. and she was not playing at all. And I wanted to bring that to you because right now we're seeing a whole bunch of people trying to jump into the role of Captain Canada. Some people claiming that we're a leaderless country right now. It's like, we're not. We're not. We're not. Like, as I said yesterday, that's the beauty of the Westminster parliamentary system, right? We have a governor general who is our head of state who ensures the continuity of government. And we have a prime minister. We have a strong prime minister up until the time we have the next strong prime minister until they're sworn in. They take the oath. And that's just the way it works. Now, if someone is not a strong prime minister because they're not doing the job well, that's one thing. But we always have a strong prime minister all the time. That's the thing. Someone who has the authority and the legitimacy to make the decision. Whether they're 2 days before the end of their term or whether they're 2 days into their term, doesn't matter. We do not have lame duck in Canada. It's not a thing. So you got some people saying, oh, we've got a lame duck. No, we don't. We have a prime minister until they are no longer the prime minister, and we have a new one. And all the powers and all the authority are invested in them at that moment, are vested in them in that moment, I should say. So all this, that type of spin, we're in chaos, it's panic, we have weak leadership, we're leaderless, all that is total BS. It's not the way our system works. It might be the way the American system works in the meantime. When they transition, they're in a particularly weak period. But that's not the same here in Canada. It's not the same under the Westminster parliamentary system. All right? So on that front, we need to calm down. That's people trying to get you upset, fearful, keep you in that state of, so that you're less inclined to actually think through what it is that they're saying and more inclined to open up your wallet or, give your data. So don't buy into that stuff. That's not the way our system works. Now, we do have somebody completely unpredictable, working according to the madman theory and all of that kind of stuff down there. And we never know what we're going to get. But we are not weak. Right? You got people like Andrew Coyne making statements. And it's not, I want to phrase this correctly. It's not an inflammatory statement because I have to state this explicitly because with Andrew Coyne, as you know, my thought about him is sometimes he's really, 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 really bang on. And sometimes he's just like, where are you coming from? So he posted a tweet, and this is not one of the where you coming from or bang on. This is just a tweet. But he muses aloud, I suspect Trump's next move will be to try to play the provinces off against one another, with Ottawa a ghost town. Who's to stop him? Ottawa is not a ghost town. This type of phrasing that they want you to be, that I have a problem with. We're not a ghost town. But I suspect Trump's next move will be try to play the provinces off one another. Who's to stop him? The premiers? Maybe? I don't know. They can only be used to play provinces off one another if they grant him that permission and agree to be used that way. The premiers have some free will here. Again, this is not all Ottawa. This is not Ottawa as a ghost town. And this is not all Ottawas to manage. If Trump's trying to play the premiers against one another, then it's up to premiers to recognize the game and not be played. I don't know where this idea comes from that every Ottawa has to do everything and that the premiers are not responsible in any way for doing anything whatsoever and have no responsibility and should have no accountability for what it is they choose to do or not do. It's not up to Ottawa to force the premiers to not be played against each other. It's up to the premiers to choose not to be played, to actually practice some discernment. Like, come on, man. So I don't even know why we're asking this question. Who's to stop them? Themselves. I it's like people have no idea what to say, so they're just saying anything to fill up time, to fill up space. There's a lot of these things that these are just not serious discussions. I bothering me. So we have, when we're talking about premiers playing against each other, we've got Danielle Smith, of course, still doing her best and really trying to justify her spending 6 days worth of Alberta's, well, not should say spending 6 days worth. Sorry, spending Albertans and Canadians tax dollars over 6 days for a 6-day party trip to DC that she planned before she even scored some sweet, or what she thought were then sweet inauguration ball tickets. Now she's got them. And she's still trying to justify going to DC. All right. So we have Danielle Smith right now talking about premiers or provinces that are, being put or in a position to be put against each other, because right now there is, as we see, that there's a battle, unspoken yet battle between Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre, it seems, for the potential leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada. There also is a battle between Doug Ford and Danielle Smith to be the voice of Canada, essentially, particularly in the United States. Both of them are all over U.S. news. And even Jagmeet Singh got an audition because he got, I think, a 20-minute spot with the folks from Midas Touch. I guess they liked Charlie Angus, so they wanted to find out a little more about the leader. So he did a little stint there. So it seems everybody's auditioning in the U.S. lately for some reason. Yet another way, the NDP is becoming a lot like conservatives, trying to figure it out. You know, well, not trying to figure it out. I know why the conservatives are making their case on U.S. TV. Right? It's foreign interference. And it's all this whole machine that's working together. If we believe the Stephen Harper IDU, he's the puppet master pulling all the strings type of thing. Well, then, right, he's got everybody working together. But the NDP using the same tactic is kind of interesting. So, but I just noticed similar tactics. It seems that Canadian politicians would rather go on U.S. shows and have that content rebroadcast to us that way, so we can get the information that way, rather than going on Canadian shows. Then again, considering that the overwhelming majority of Canadian media is GOP, American, Trumpublican owned, does it really make a difference? Ultimately. But that's pretty much what seems to be what's going on. If the news is reflected back to us from the Americans, I think they have an idea that we might take it more seriously or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just Kit Donna Midas touches more like liberals, but if Jagmeet wanted to go on a left channel, he would go to the Majority Report. Probably, you're right there, Kit Donna. But on the other sense, the United States truly is a two-party. So the concept of having traditional Democrats and Democrat socialists in the same part, in two different parties rather than in one same party, maybe doesn't strike them. Because that's the one thing I've always wondered about the United States. They always poll as Republicans, Democrats, and independent, but there's no actual independent political party. Why not? Get yourself a three-party system. Yeah. break that logjam. Or there's a word that they call it when gridlock or something. Gridlock is good. It's like, no, it's not actually. um, so yes, so you have Danielle Smith, and what I was mentioning is that with Doug Ford being on TV and Danielle being on TV, Doug Ford has a natural advantage in Canada by virtue of the fact that he's got the rotating presidency of the Council of the Federation at the moment. So he literally is in charge of speaking on behalf of the provinces. The provinces and territories together have decided that there's a rotating presidency, so it's him. So they're deferred to that. So Danielle has to work extra hard, basically, at this moment. And what I was stating is that um, she is going for 6 days. She's still going to the United States for all the inauguration activities. And when she decided that she was going to spend Albertans' tax dollars to do that, because she didn't have inauguration ball tickets, but then she did score them. And she's still considering these things assets rather than liabilities. She's still trying to justify making that trip, getting you to pay to go on a 6-day party. And she's going so that she can be seen and maybe get a head pat by Donald Trump, the man who says he just wants to take over her oil. Oil that she says she is not prepared, although I don't think the decision would be hers, to have a retaliatory 25% tariff slapped on. If we're talking about selfish and irresponsible, because every accusation is a confession with these people, that would be it. She should be canceling that trip. She should not be validating his claims anymore. She should not be seeking his approval. She should not definitely not be having the, oh, well, I can't wait to go to Washington. I'm going to make the case about our oil. Seems that the first one that's really eager and willing to be swallowed up. It, it seems she already knows what her price is, and she's prepared to just go and lay it down on the table. Says, this is how much I'll go for. This is not normal behavior when someone threatens your country. Being eager to go and party with them. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. Oh, man. And then we have Doug Ford, and he's doing all kinds of things. They're still trying to treat this as a joke somehow. And I guess in one way, you kind of have to, because he's so thin-skinned that if you ever make some type of serious comment, he goes ballistic. And on that one, in case I said it during the time I was talking about Danny, you need to check out some stuff by Elizabeth May that we will bring to you when we have Mr. Grizzly with us. But he was on Fox News with Jesse Waters, and Jesse Waters was being like a major dick in that interview. And again, we will show it to you, but it's like he needed to personally be appeased. And he was personally offended by the fact that some people in Canada don't seem too happy that the United States wants to climb all over us and just take us over. We're supposed to just lie back and take it and like it, apparently. And we will show you that clip. And when we do, there's going to be some trigger warnings, because if ever you've been in an SA situation, that host is using some pretty nasty language. It's like, why wouldn't you welcome me climbing all over you and just taking you over? And I'm frankly a little offended that you would object. Excuse me? At the moment, based on that clip, I do not know what the difference between Fox News and RT is at the moment. So CRTC, if you'd like to give Fox the RT treatment, I would be okay with that. I'm sure there's many Canadians that would at the moment. I It was an appalling moment, and Doug Ford is trying to do his best to laugh it off. And I have to say, considering um, how awful this Jesse Waters guy is, uh, that Doug Ford was able to maintain the thing for those terrible 4 minutes and 39 seconds um, was a feat. I have to commend him. But we should not be going on those shows. It's that simple. I mean, I can understand the idea, the hypothesis at the beginning of going on Fox News and speaking to that side of America, the way that Trump speaks, ish, sending Doug Ford to send that. But if we're going on that show to have the host communicate to the people of his nation, well, it's offensive that you would object to us annexing you. We're the best country in the world. Everybody wants to be. Yes, you should consider it an honor that I want to climb up all on top of you, even though you don't want it. If it's to send that message to the Americans, the United States can just take whatever it wants. And anybody is crazy if they object. Then our premier should not be participating in that. There is no other side to make there. This is not a serious conversation. This is not a constructive conversation in any way. You should not be willing co-star in a propaganda piece. Doug Ford now knows what it is going on. If he goes back on Fox, particularly on Jesse Waters' show, it's because he cares more about the profile than defending Canada. You go once, but that was not an interview. That was an exercise, a propaganda exercise on selling Americans that is completely normal and even desirable that the United States just take over countries. It's not okay. It's not okay. And earlier in the week, Doug Ford tried to joke it off again, right? Well, hey, you know, how about we take Alaska, Minnesota, and, off your hands, sell them to us. Doug Ford's actually offering to buy them, not to take them. In order to, like, now Doug Ford did say, it's like, hey, I understand. He tried to put a frame on it. I know that Doug Ford, I know that Trump's like in real estate and whatnot, like this, and Canada's great like this, but this property is not for sale. Well, I mean, you're talking to the guy, Jesse Waters, who a few weeks ago in the clip said, I think it would be great if we had Canada. I don't know. Maybe there's something we could do they might not want to come, but maybe there's something we could do to convince them or to change their minds about that. A lot of people took that one just literally, well, maybe they wouldn't want to, but maybe we could say something. He doesn't mean saying something to convince them to change their minds. He didn't mean that then either. That was foreshadowing for that conversation. I'm here in the United States and I'm reading stuff from Canada about Canadians really objecting and finding it almost disgusting or horrible, like that they would ever be Americans. I'm offended. Explain yourself to me. Who the fuck are you? It's just so no. These are types of shows on which our premiers should not be trying to appear to build their profile. Shows that normalize the concept that America should just be entitled to take whichever parts of the world they want now. Got Trump talking about Greenland. Well, they should just give it to us because we need it. What the what the fuck is that? Pardon my language. It's I need it, so they should just give it to me? America needs it? Whatever it is that you've got, world, that you really need, if we need it, you should just give it to us. Because we're America. Our needs matter more than yours all the time because we're America. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. We shouldn't, our premiers and our politicians should not be validating that type of content in any way, shape, or form. Now, Doug Ford did as best as he could, sloughing it off to get through the 4-minute interview. But I would like to say, you know what? If you're not able to understand the fact that citizens of another country could be as proud of being citizens of that country as you are of being American, then you're not proposing a serious conversation. I'm sorry, we're done here. And you end the interview. You end the interview. Politely, firmly, curtly, but you end the interview. Because it's not an interview. Our premiers need to be very, very careful in this game where they're positioning themselves because they feel their leaders are vulnerable and that there might be an opportunity for them to step up, to not be validating claims made by Donald Trump that then they would have to kowtow to if they became leader because they've already agreed in the search for more power for themselves over here to validate claims they know were not true because they thought it would help them in that nanosecond. But once you validate a claim, there's forever video with you moving your mouth and sound coming out of it of you validating the claim. And some people will hold you to that. You admitted it, so why aren't you doing anything about it? Don't validate the claim. Don't seek validation. And Trump keeps on going, I get along well with all the world's dictators. Why would you want to get along well with the world's dictators? This is not a selling point. Our premiers need to be careful from whom they are seeking validation. This is not good. And not every platform is worth being on, despite the viewership. You shouldn't refuse going on a platform just because. But if it's a platform that you know or you highly suspect that's going to try to set you up or push a type of narrative that is super toxic, you probably shouldn't be going unless you are super good, like Buttigieg good, at cutting through the BS. But no, this is so, you have some people that are going, you know what? I don't like Doug Ford, but right now I'm a Doug Ford guy because he's standing up. Yes, there's a cathartic thing to see someone going, yeah, well, fuck you too. But each of these things have a consequence. Each of these things have a consequence. And sometimes diplomatically, you're not at liberty to do that or say what you truly feel. But, you know, if I was in that interview right now when Jesse Waters was doing that, I would be standing up saying, "You fuck off. Who the fuck are you?" to be offended. And, so Doug Ford was able to keep his calm through that. But it's like, I'd be like leaving that studio on the phone. So, if this guy ever calls, I'm busy. It's like I got no more time to be on this guy's show because that was terrible. Terrible. So yes, it does look like Doug Ford is standing up for us in a certain way. And like, listen, the property's not for sale. It won't happen under my watch. But like, okay, that's great. But I think we need something other than laughing through it. Because, and when we show you Elizabeth May's clip, Elizabeth May is doing it. Unfortunately, she's the leader of the fifth party. But out of all of them, she is the only one I've heard say something like, if it was a joke, it was never funny, and it stops now. Okay? She's about the only person I've heard say that. Not try to slough it off, not try to entertain it, not try to work around it, address it head on. Politely, firmly, in a very Canadian way. But knowing that we mean business. It is unwelcome. This type of chat is unwelcome, and we should not be engaging with it. We do not have to react to everything that comes from south of us, particularly when it is said for the sole purpose of generating a reaction. Things are not going well in the United States for Trump right now. And as we learned in his first term, we are his favorite punching bag. Things are not going well. He didn't get his pick for Senate Majority Leader. He didn't get his pick for AG. The report from the House Committee on Ethics on the AG did not remain sealed. He didn't get his pick at the DEA. Senators did not, or I should say the House, did not raise the debt ceiling under Biden's mandate so that Trump could blame him for it after. He didn't get the budget reconciliation deal that he wanted. Not reconciliation deal, sorry. The continuing resolution, they call it in the States, that he wanted. He is still going to be sentenced tomorrow, even though he didn't want. He's being told no a lot. Things will not be going smoothly for him and a lot of the things that he wants to do. He needs, and he's got full control of the Senate, of the House, and of the Supreme Court. So when he still fails, he needs someone to blame. Blame Canada, with their trash can little heads and their beady little eyes. Blame. Or the terrain. Now, there's still all the undercurrent stuff that we mentioned yesterday about climate change and all these passageways, and Putin wants access to all of them, and Trump looks like he's really helping him in acquiring it. Somebody made a joke about Elon Musk. Says, it's like, what do you expect? I bought the USA. And I was like, yeah. But then Elon Musk was caught saying, oh, no. This USA thing I have is not really mine. I was just holding it for a friend. Come on, man. So, yeah, This is it's not good. It's not a good situation. So our premiers, they're asking for meetings with the prime minister so that they can deal with this. Um, but some of them, are still trying to present the fact or trying to spin us into the fact that we are a leaderless country or that we are a country in weak leadership at the moment. We are not. But premiers that are on American news and going to the inauguration ball and not making it very clear that what's happening is unacceptable. We need to keep our eyes on them. We need to keep our eyes on them. And leaders of the opposition that can't bring themselves to speak publicly in 48 hours, that would also be a problem. Who don't interrupt their vacation when someone threatens the country. And we don't know who they're vacationing with or where they are vacationing. Because apparently, if it's the leader of the opposition, because they're not prime minister yet, we don't have to worry about what ethical entanglements are because he can't act on them. Yeah, but he could be planning stuff to act on should he become prime minister. So I don't see why we should be applying less scrutiny to where the leader of the opposition is on vacation and with whom right now. And what it is about his vacation that is so interesting that for 2 days we did not see or hear from him in person out of his own mouth. What is he doing with that other hand that he's got us on speakerphone? Sure would be nice to have a media that was curious enough to ask the questions. Just saying. All right, kids and cubs. What else have we got here for you today? Well, in the race to replace the leader of the Liberal Party, who has announced they are stepping aside, there's some interesting positioning happening. So, we've talked so far about the grandstanding, mostly in the form of Doug Ford and Daniel Smith. Scott Moe is being surprisingly quiet, oddly enough, at the moment. We're seeing the grandstanding, certain U.S. personalities who think that let's invade Canada. Let's talk about Canada like the Russians talked about Ukraine as being a good ratings getter. We're seeing grandstand. Well, I won't say grandstanding from some candidates because I'm even Frank Bayless. I mean, he just said he clearly intends to run no matter what, but he hasn't been making a big deal. So I won't say grandstanding there because the people who aspire to become the leader of the Liberal Party are still being appropriately demure and mindful while they're waiting for the rules to be announced. Because why take a position before the rules are announced? There's no point. There's no point in risking some capital at this point. But one person who it seemed was a shoo-in to be running and was the favorite of many in all of this grandstanding opted for statesmanship. Now, again, as I mentioned, one of the accusations being made here is that we have a weak, leaderless government, and one of the reasons that we need an election right now, is because we can't be this weak. We can't allow ourselves to be this weak as the new president is about to come in. He's threatening these tariffs. We have to be there and act upon that. Okay. I can buy that as a premise. But this man, this one particular person, one of the reasons they were able to say that is because this person was expected to be running in the leadership race. And he decided to take a pass. According to Davis Legree of iPolitics, Liberal MPs are asking Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc to reconsider his decision to not pursue the party leadership. So he came out publicly saying, I'm not going to pursue the party leadership. And then everybody's like, what? No, no. LeBlanc posted on his social media that he was, quote, extremely grateful for the support he received from caucus colleagues, but his attention was best directed towards fulfilling his duties as finance minister and addressing U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's threat of imposing a blanket 25% tariff on all Canadian goods. However, some of LeBlanc's colleagues are holding out hope that he will change his mind. On Wednesday, the Liberal Party National Caucus congregated for the first time since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced he would step down pending the selection of his successor. After the meeting, various Liberals told reporters about a movement within caucus to try and persuade LeBlanc to enter the race. Quote, I don't think it's closed, said veteran Liberal MP Judy Scrow. I think if we can get a draft Dominic movement, it may just happen. LeBlanc, who was considered one of the top contenders to succeed Trudeau, has held a smattering of cabinet posts in the Trudeau administration, including infrastructure, public safety, and intergovernmental affairs. He took on the finance portfolio last month after Chrystia Freeland's abrupt resignation, which sent shockwaves through the Canadian political world and triggered renewed caucus unrest that led to the Prime Minister's resignation. And that's a comment we made about Dominic LeBlanc, is that the rule in cabinet is supposed to be is you go where the prime minister asks you to go, and you don't really object and you don't really ask questions. So the fact that this has happened a few times under this prime minister is actually extraordinary, that he wanted to move someone to another cabinet position and someone said no and made a public issue of it. Dominic LeBlanc, I guess, is a more traditional politician in that sense that, yep, wherever you need me, he just goes. And he doesn't make a scene and does it. I think Dominic LeBlanc has incredible political sense, but more than that, he understands the country, said Liberal MP Jennifer O'Connell, who spent years as LeBlanc's parliamentary secretary. He talks like a real person, he understands the real issues people are facing, and he knows how to bring solutions. I hope he reconsiders, but ultimately, it's his choice. And what Dominic LeBlanc did yesterday, according to the Canadian press, is he said that he will not run for the Liberal Party leadership. He said in a statement that Canada is, quote, at a critical juncture in its relationship with its most important ally and trading partner, the United States. As a result, LeBlanc says he will keep his full attention on making the case against, quote, the unjust application of tariffs on Canadian businesses. And LeBlanc has already traveled to Florida twice since Trump won the U.S. election to meet with the president-elect and key members of the team. Now, LeBlanc's statement here is all the more important because, well, one, he is the finance minister, the newly appointed finance minister, but he is, and, we're talking tariffs and stuff. So assuming that cabinet ministers would step aside from their cabinet positions to run for the leadership race, if the executive mandates that, then we would not have a finance minister. But as well, in the recent cabinet shuffle prior to it, when he was the public safety minister, he was in charge for border security. He's maintained the border security file and has brought it with him. So he's the finance minister and the border security guy when we're talking tariffs, and Trump allegedly claiming he believes that there's a lot of fentanyl and illegal migration coming from the Canadian border. So technically, he's the guy that it would be the most risky to move if we bought into that theory that our government is never weaker than at this particular period. And that we have weak government in the transition period, US style, which we don't. But let's say we did. He would be the guy out of all of them that you don't move around. Because Prime Minister's still the Prime Minister. He hasn't moved. Right? He will move once they choose a new leader, but he hasn't moved yet. So you got the guy that has all the knowledge of the past relationships still in place. And the finance minister and the guy who's been the border minister responsible for the border for a decent amount of time stays in place. So that really cuts off the conservative argument at the kneecaps, big time. Now, if this guy really did want to become leader, he basically fell on his sword and passed on the opportunity because the nation needs him where he is right now. I believe the word for that is statesmanship, as opposed to what Pierre and Doug and Danielle are doing, and Jagmeet. Dominic LeBlanc is ensuring that we have stability and continuity at border security and finance. Melanie Joly is also thinking about that as Minister of Foreign Affairs. She would really like to run, but do circumstances allow it right now? Some things that people have to think about. Dominic LeBlanc's full statement. Quote, while I am extremely grateful for the encouragement and the expressions of support I have received from caucus colleagues and Liberals across the country, I have decided not to be a candidate in the Liberal Party of Canada's upcoming leadership race. Your kindness has touched me more than you can imagine, and I am enormously grateful to each and every one of you. Serving Canadians is an immense privilege, and at a moment when Canada is at a critical juncture in its relationship with its most important ally and trading partner, the United States, I firmly believe that at this time, the best way for me to serve our country is to direct my full attention to my job as Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs, working together with cabinet colleagues, premiers, other party leaders, business and union leaders to make the case against the unjust application of tariffs on Canadian businesses and workers to the incoming Trump administration. The threat these tariffs pose to our nation's economic well-being and to the livelihood of a countless number of Canadian families cannot be understated, and as such, it requires nothing less than my full attention. I look forward to running as a candidate under a new Liberal leader in the next federal election and to asking the people of Beauséjour to renew their confidence in me as their Member of Parliament, as they have so graciously done over the last 8 federal elections. And in that, it says Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs. He's the point person for all the premiers within cabinet, and he's highly respected by all the premiers, even the Moes and the Smiths and the Fords. So he would have been a good candidate for Prime Minister. 8 times an MP, has gone where he's needed to go, has done every job competently, respected by his peers, respected by his colleagues, respected by the premiers, keeps calm, can talk like a normal person, has a good sense of humor. There is also the fact that Dominic LeBlanc had relatively recently returned to cabinet after fighting a cancer diagnosis. So there could be maybe that, being Minister of Finance and Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs is a stressful job enough. Right? When you're, I'm not going to say that his health is not the best because maybe he's in full remission. I have no idea. But he had left cabinet for a while this to get treatment. So, maybe health wise also, he just doesn't want the big job. And this is a good opportunity to provide some stability at the same time as a result. But whatever the underlying reason is, we have a moment of statesmanship, which of course is causing everybody and a lot of people in caucus to want him to run even more now, of course, because that would happen. And again, this is a weird time, so don't say never. He might throw his hat in the ring yet, if enough people want him. But yeah, compare and contrast to what our premiers are doing. We have a serious government. We have adults in the room. It's just whether or not we are so angry post-COVID that we want to change no matter what, and we don't care what, and we don't care what the consequences, just to get the cathartic punch in the face of the guy that made us take our medicine. Dad made us eat our broccoli, and we resent him for it. So, and we might get what we get. It might not be the best thing, or we're able to hopefully see a few months of what life is like in the United States under the next guy and turn around and go, you know what? Maybe the same party, but a different person at the helm is enough change for now. There's always another election. We can say that in Canada. Still, at the moment. So, you could give a new Liberal a chance, and if you still don't like them, then make a switch. You don't have to make the big pendulum switch all at once. You can see how a little change works. You never know. But yeah, Dominic LeBlanc showing us some statesmanship when compared to what we are seeing from other players here. With regard to LeBlanc as well, Jennifer O'Connell, who had made this statement that I read previously about Dominic LeBlanc, she was asked whether her caucus colleagues shared her views, and according to iPolitics, before she could answer, fellow Liberal Mark Garrison, who we interviewed on this show, interjected to say he completely agreed. And there was an email, there was a Twitter post almost like, no, Dominic, don't. Meanwhile, Ottawa Centre MP Yassir Naqvi acknowledged, quote, there's a lot of effort from caucus to convince LeBlanc to submit a bid for the party's top job. Quote, we need a leader who's experienced, who's fluently bilingual, who's able to communicate with Canadians and provide a positive vision forward, said Naqvi. I think Dominic LeBlanc has a lot of talent. He understands politics really well. He's demonstrated again and again his belief in Canada, and I really hope that he reconsiders his decision. Other Liberals said LeBlanc would be a great candidate, but it's ultimately his choice on whether or not he wishes to pursue the leadership. Quote, I think it's always important for all of us to have the best possible field of candidates, and Mr. LeBlanc would be an excellent person for the Liberals to consider, said Talib Noor Mohammed, Liberal representative for Vancouver Grenville. LeBlanc's office did not immediately respond to iPolitics' request for comment. LeBlanc previously sought the leadership in 2008 when he launched a bid to replace Stéphane Dion, but ultimately withdrew from the race and endorsed Michael Ignatieff, the eventual winner. Public opinion data suggests LeBlanc is not the front runner to replace Trudeau among both Liberal supporters and Canadians. Recent polls from Angus Reid, Nanos Research, and Spark Advocacy shows LeBlanc well behind Freeland and former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, but in a multiple-person race, especially in a ranked ballot vote, sometimes the person that starts in third place ends up being the consensus candidate, and that could be Dominic LeBlanc. Because when you have frontrunners like Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, there is naturally going to be an anyone but Freeland or an anyone but Carney movement as well within the party when it comes to leadership. Another thing depends how many people are in the leadership. And again, we're still waiting for the national executive to get back on that with the rules and what they will require. Because if they make it stringent enough to make it such that maybe only 3 or 4 can afford to enter as opposed to 7 to 10, that changes the dynamics for first, second, and third round voting. And probably would make it less likely in that case that a third party, that a consensus candidate that was not initially a frontrunner could emerge to win. So we will wait to see more about that. But as that is going on, the contenders have started lining up. And so we're seeing some interesting positioning. This is also from iPolitics, but from Davis Legree. The Liberal Party has yet to release guidelines for its upcoming leadership contest, but possible contenders have already started positioning themselves to enter the race that will determine Canada's next Prime Minister. Whenever, back in the day, I used to watch America's Next Top Model because everything I've learned about modeling, I've learned from Tyra. And sometimes, there are some days I wonder if we'd be better off doing this by reality show format. Canada's next top prime minister. And now, candidates, you must lip sync for your lives. I know I'm mixing up some RuPaul's Drag Race in there. But yes, they're going to determine who will be next prime minister. The Liberal caucus met on Wednesday for the first time since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced he will step down pending the selection of his successor. Earlier this week, Governor General Mary Simon granted Trudeau's request to prorogue Parliament until March 24th, giving the party less than 75 days before the House of Commons reopens. Ahead of Wednesday's meeting, several cabinet ministers rumored to be interested in the Liberal Party's top job told reporters they were contemplating their future and considering a potential bid. Quote, I've met with my team many times and I've been reflecting, said Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly. In the context of my reflection, I very much know that I'm Minister of Foreign Affairs at a time when it's extremely difficult with the incoming American administration. So that's why I'll continue my reflection. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who is set to be inaugurated on January 20th, has vowed to introduce a blanket 25% tariff on all Canadian goods immediately upon taking office. Quote, when this is such an important decision, of course you have to think about your family, your loved ones, my own projects to become a mother, and at the same time to be able to defend Canada's interests, continued Joly. And on that, I've been hearing some news from the United States suggesting that maybe the tariffs won't be as strong as 25%, or maybe on not necessarily everything. That seems to be the leaning, but things change on a dime there. So, but that's some of the stuff on the tweet, word on the tweet that I've been hearing in the back from sources that I usually consult. But there doesn't seem to be much confirmation, so I don't want to run with it as a news item, but just have that in the back, that's sort of going on there, while remembering Trump is Trump, and a plan is a plan until it's not. I mean, right? They had a continuing resolution deal to finance the House until the day before. It seemed everything was going to pass, and then Trump and Musk and friends came out and said, no, don't vote for that. Do this instead. And Trump lost on that too. Another reason why he's a little angry maybe now and lashing out at us. The article continues. Energy Minister Jonathan Wilkinson, who I talked about yesterday, also said he was seriously exploring a run at the leadership, adding that he is having ongoing conversations with colleagues in caucus to ensure he has the necessary backing to pursue a bid. And I think I may have made a mistake yesterday, so gentle correction on myself, because I said he was the Natural Resource Minister. He was the Natural Resource Minister at one point, but I think in not the most recent shuffle, but one previous, they rejigged some departments and he's officially the energy minister. Quote, I wanted to ensure that I have a sufficient amount of support to be competitive in the race if I'm going to enter it, said Wilkinson. But I do think I have some important things to say. He does. He's a man worth listening to. A source close to Wilkinson told iPolitics that several MPs have approached the BC minister about putting his name forward. The source said Wilkinson, who was raised in Saskatchewan and represents a Vancouver riding, would bring a degree of Western representation to a Liberal Party that has seen abysmal polling across the prairies and toward the Pacific coast. Meanwhile, Labour Minister Stephen McKinnon, this is a new name that had not been touted before, said he's also considering a run and emphasized the need for the next leader to be completely fluent in English and French. Quote, I think it's important that we have a leader who understands all of Canada and its regions and can communicate with Canada and Canadians in every region of this country, said McKinnon, the MP for Gatineau. For that reason, I'm considering running and putting my name forward and evaluating what kind of support might exist for my candidacy. Other media outlets have reported that Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne and former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney are also looking at throwing their hat in the ring, while former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland did not respond to reporters' questions on Wednesday. Freeland, whose sudden resignation last month triggered renewed caucus unrest that culminated in the Prime Minister's recent announcement, is viewed very favorably within caucus, according to Liberal MP James Maloney. Quote, we're blessed in caucus to have a lot of people who are great leaders, but I'm going to support Chrystia Freeland because I've seen how capable she is at dealing with difficult situations, said Maloney. She dealt with the trade issue with the first Trump administration, and I'm confident she would be the right person to lead us until the next election, not forgetting that she probably led the world in the initial run of putting sanctions on Russia after it had invaded Ukraine, because she kind of is really familiar with the territory. Former BC Premier Christy Clark also previously expressed interest in the Liberal leadership, while Transport Minister Anita Anand, another rumored contender, has not responded to questions about political leadership aspirations. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc was also considered a top contender, but he announced on Wednesday that he will not put his name forward, adding that he will devote his attention to addressing tariff threats from the incoming Trump administration. Currently, only former Liberal MP Frank Baylis has explicitly stated a desire to pursue the leadership. On Monday, Liberal Party President Sashit Mehra said on social media that he will hold a meeting of the party's national board sometime this week, which will begin the process of selecting a new leader. So there you go with that, kits and cubs. There's also another little, not scandal, but maybe scandalette happening or trying to be made to happen with regard to who can vote in the Liberal leadership, since we're talking about foreign interference. As you know, the Liberals have a different type of membership system. It's switched in recent years where you don't actually have to buy a membership and anybody can get one. And it seems that anybody who's 14 years old and over who is, quote, ordinarily living in Canada can become a registered Liberal. So the party membership rules were such that you don't necessarily have to be a Canadian citizen. If you're a permanent resident or if you've been living in Canada for a certain amount of time without full citizenship and not even of age of voting, 14 years old and older, like this, you could become a member. Some people are already, there's already been some articles. I saw some yesterday in the Globe and Mail, like this, leaving yourself up open to foreign interference. Now, again, you have to be very clear that these are the rules that were in place last time around, so therefore are still in place, but the executive has not met in order to talk about the rules. So these are not necessarily the rules that will be in place for this coming leadership race, but there's a lot of people that are talking about it, saying, you're opening the doors. It's like, no, they're not opening the doors. The doors may have been opened with those rules as they are now, given that we have a foreign interference inquiry, but it does not mean that the Liberals are doing things right now to open the door to more foreign interference. It's whether or not they will close the door to optics that can be exploited as being opportunities for foreign interference. And they do have the power to do that. And I have a feeling that since the objective of this leadership race is to get the new leader on the best footing possible to hopefully win the next election, but at least be convincing enough and get enough support, public support in the short amount of time that people will have to see them to keep Podiev to a minority at least. They probably don't want to add extra noise in the process, and having a membership process that does not allow strictly Canadian citizens of voting age and older, maybe you can make a case for younger, is going to be exploited somehow by another party. And they're going to try to make that the issue and pull focus away from the contenders. So as a party, it would probably be very good idea, PR wise, this time around, to restrict that to people who are eligible to vote or would be eligible to vote in the next election if we're going younger than that. That would be the way to minimize noise as much as possible on that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear that. Now you're going to hear a whole other group of people saying, well, if you're not a citizen, but you're a permanent resident, you are affected by the decisions of the government. So you should at least, if not able to vote in an election, at least vote for who the candidate will be that will affect your life. You can make a case for that. But you can also, if you're on the other side and want to make a party look bad, you can easily exploit that, right? As to trying to give yourself some advantage or that type of stuff, or, opening it up to cheating or trying to rig the game. So you might not, in this particular instance, it might be better to have complaints from the community that no longer gets to vote in the leadership race than having your opponents tarnish the new leader, whoever they are, because they came from a allegedly tainted process. Somebody's going to have to do the bean counting on that and make that decision, and then be able to communicate it effectively to those who will lose out as a result. Ahead of a Liberal caucus meeting on Wednesday, several MPs called for the rules to be changed before the forthcoming contest, adding that voting rights should be restricted to citizens and permanent residents. When asked if he had concerns about the eligibility criteria, Liberal MP Marcus Pawlowski said, quote, "Absolutely. I don't know why it's like that," he told reporters. "I think really it should just be citizens, maybe permanent residents, but if you're in neither of those categories, I don't think you should be allowed to vote. Whether it's going to be possible to change the constitution or the rules before the election, I doubt it. It is possible. It probably will require a 3/4 vote of the executive to do it, but it is possible. As currently written, party rules allows all registered Liberals to vote in leadership contests. Anyone at least 14 years old who, quote, ordinarily lives in Canada is eligible to register as Liberal free of charge, so long as they don't belong to another political party and, quote, support the purposes of the party. This means, barring any changes, people living in Canada who are neither citizens nor permanent residents, like international students, for example, are allowed to help pick the country's next prime minister. No. Are allowed to help pick the next leader of the Liberal Party. Yes, I understand that if they do become prime minister, you did play a role, but it's not. It's not a direct link. It's not a direct link like that, as written down in this article. The party's eligibility criteria has already come under scrutiny during the public inquiry into foreign interference, which heard last year that Chinese international students had been bussed to vote in former Liberal MP Han Dong's 2019 nomination contest, potentially at the behest of the Chinese government. Dong eventually secured the nomination and was elected in the Don Valley North seat. Don sits as an independent after resigning from the Liberal caucus in 2023, though he continues to deny all allegations that his candidacy was aided by Chinese electoral interference. Veteran Liberal MP Judy Scrow said recent reports on foreign interference demonstrate the need for the party to tighten rules regarding who can vote in leadership races. Quote, "I think you need to be a Canadian citizen, definitely a permanent resident," she said. "We need to make sure, given the issue of foreign interference in our country, that we have a solid, transparent, and safe process." Scrow added that she expected the topic to come up at Wednesday's meeting. Public Safety Minister David McGuinty said any discussions made about party rules will lie with the Liberal Party executive, who he said will, quote, "examine all these questions. The executive will come to ground on what rules it will provide for leadership contenders," said McGuinty. On Monday, Liberal Party President Sachin Mehra said on social media that he will hold a meeting of the party's national board sometime this week, which will begin the process of selecting a new leader, though he did not mention any possible rule changes. Since the party has yet to outline the rules governing the leadership race, no candidates have officially entered the contest, though former Grit MP Frank Bayliss has stated his intention to pursue leadership. Energy Minister Jonathan Wilkinson and Labour Minister Steve McKinnon have also publicly said that they're exploring potential bids. And then, as we mentioned in the previous article, former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne, and Foreign Affairs Ministers Mélanie Joly are among those rumored to be interested in the party's top job, while new Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc announced on Wednesday that he would not be entering the race. So there you go, kits and cubs. That is the main stuff about the positioning, where things are. Looking a bit at the premiers, looking at what could be some grandstanding versus what some statesmanship is. And it's nice to have the contrast of some statesmanship, because it really makes the grandstanding stick out like a sore thumb. So that's the information that we have today with regard to those things, so that you are up to date with what might be possibly be developing tomorrow and over the course of the weekend. And before moving over to ending the show, I would like to go through the chat and see if you kids had anything to say about this. Because, well, we love to hear what you are saying. It seems that today, Kit Saucy might have been busy with the wrench. It seems that we have a lot of people adding to our engagement numbers today. Attempting to offer what they believe are helpful comments. Let's just call it that. And Kit's, of course, being appropriately kind, but firm in that they're not going to be taking any BS today in the chat, which makes your Beaver Papa and your Queen Beaver very, very happy. The kids, they grow up so fast. I'm so proud. Thank you so much. Get Saucy going. The trolls are bursting out the thesaurus today. I love it when trolls want to sound intellectual too. That's always nice. Well, you know what? Give them points for effort, because if they're breaking out the thesaurus, you know they care. You know they care. So that's good. It's good. Caring matters. I like that. Kitland Ebb, all the things Doug Ford is saying are nothing more than the equivalent of Skippy's 3-word slogans. They are sound bites that accomplish nothing. I can see that. I can see how you see it that way. Some person named Kevin, who's new to our chat, with whom the kids are engaging. I'm just always surprised at how triggered folks get by Trump. It's an intentional strategy on his part, and folks lose all objectivity. Anyway, off to work. Have a great day, Ontario. And that's true. It is. It is an intentional strategy. He likes to make us dance. And again, when someone is like that, the best strategy is to not give the baby their candy. And yes, they will scream and they will cry, and they will try to make themselves so loud that you can't do anything but avoid dealing with them. But eventually the toddler will cry itself out. Don't give the baby their candy. He likes attention. He likes to feel he makes things happen. You have some articles in the States saying that, it was, after his confrontation with Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago, Justin Trudeau resigns. Like it's a direct consequence of that. You get some really interesting retelling of tales a couple of weeks out from the event being happening. So keep your eye out for that. But yes, Kit Kevin, it is an intentional strategy. And we should not dance to the tune he's calling. We need to take the thing seriously, but we don't have to react. And media is there to stick a microphone in your face going, Trump just said this, how do you react? I don't. Is a perfectly acceptable answer. What do you think about this? I don't think about that. Is a perfectly acceptable answer. Don't take the bait. Don't give him the rise that he wants. We've got to get better at that. Our premiers need to get better at that. Jeez. All right, what else do we have? Kitaro Dan, we are not triggered. We live in the reality that Trump and PP are not nice people. Full stop. Yep, that's also true. That's also true. Kidladam, I'm hoping Trump is late for his video sentencing tomorrow, and the judge finds him in contempt. Oh, by the way, Rudy Giuliani has been found in contempt. Finally, after like 75 times. It's like the average person does not get 75 shots to exercise contempt before being found in contempt. But he's finally been found in contempt of court. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him. But I'm always happy. Sorry, Petty. I'm always happy when bad things happen to Rudy. Sorry, he's bringing it upon himself. All he has to do is comply with the court. He doesn't want to. So that's what you get. Sorry. All right, let's see what else do we have here from the kids in the chat with regard to this. Kit Saucy, that could also get interesting for the US if Trump would dare push that narrative. It's a serious threat, but also one that's unlikely to succeed. However, what damage would be caused? And that's Mr. Jim speaking about pondering the computer code that controls the F-35 fleet, wondering about backdoors, etc. Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of people making the case saying that, Canada, given what Trump is saying, maybe we should purchase that F-75, that F-35 and go with the plane that's made by Sweden. Maybe, since the Americans upload all the software and control everything. Yeah, again, there are some people wondering, you know, if the United States is now no longer our best friend and ally, should we, uh, if we're going to spend 2% of our GDP to be a member of NATO, should we spend it in a way that's more self-interested? Let's just say some people are asking, and unfortunately, we have to ask. Unfortunately, which is a shame. What else do we have here? Kit Uncover the News says Trump and Stephen Miller previewed ambitious plans for 100 executive orders during a meeting with Senate Republicans last night. All right. Ugh, ugh. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Jeez. All right. I hear. Oh, not Martin Short. I love him. What about Martin Short? Oh, Martin Short's house was damaged in the fires going on in LA. We've there's actually been some tweets. I don't know if they are real tweets or fake ones, but sort of like, we are there any private firefighting firms out there that can help us? We'll pay any price. Yeah, because that's the world we want to live in, right? Those who have enough money to have the private firefighting service come to save their house and are willing to pay any price get service. Mm, that one, yeah, that one will. That one struck me as a little weird. PNC Bio, de LeBlanc is a very good politician. I don't think this is so much about class as it is better knowing when to run for leader. I completely agree here. And we are in a situation with the Liberals where you might get a one-term leader after this election, and then there'll be another opportunity. So Miss Shadika says, Matteo took the cloth off his eyes and was looking around. He looks absolutely crazy, but so cute. He said he can see clearly, so that's good. Ah, wonderful. Glad. Like to see that. Like to hear that. I'm so happy for Matteo. That's some good news. That makes me very happy. PNC Bio. What about all the poor people who work for the rich? Even in neighborhoods like the Palisades, there will be in the area for all the gardeners in the grocery store, workers, etc. Yes, indeed. This is affecting a lot of people. What else do we have here? Denmark's prime minister has called party leaders to a meeting on Thursday. A government source said over U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's stated ambitions to take control over Greenland. Okay. More Matteo news here from Miss. It will be interesting if he does actually notice details he didn't before. He never said he saw double or anything. It was just a lack of focus in the left eye. So good to that. Hopefully that will be resolved with this. Right. What else do we have here? Kits and Cubs. Any quotes from you? Kitsasi, the video of the nursing home being evacuated was heartbreaking. Embers flying around, bedridden patients unable to do anything, being frantically wheeled to a parking lot. The fire was too fast. Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes there's the evacuations. That's why we keep on saying in Canada when they give you the evacuation order or they tell you to be ready, like do be ready, have the bag by the door. So that you grab the bag, you put on your shoes, you grab your coat, and you get in the car and you leave. You don't take any time looking for anything. Making sure that you have, water in the car. If it's the winter months, that you have like some candles and some matches for heat. The, the 3 or 4 days supply of food that you can easily access. That type of stuff. Sometimes even more. You might want to. They tell you in a case of a storm or whatnot to have 3 or 4 days, but given how big and more devastating the storms are becoming, you might want a week or 2. So, but to have that stuff prepared and ready to go when it's wildfire season, that you can just you're not looking for stuff, that your medications are prepared, all your documents, that you have them somewhere in a file in a folder, and that you just pick it up and go. So, your passport, your health documents, birth certificate, social insurance numbers, deeds to your house, anything you might need for insurance, all that stuff ready. So there's reason here because water moves fast, fire can move fast, wind can gust at any moment. Um, you have to be ready. Emergency preparedness is serious, and we're going to have to develop a better emergency preparedness culture from coast to coast to coast because these events are going to become more frequent and more severe. So we need to train ourselves for that. This is going to become part of our reality, unfortunately. But yes, according to Kit Uncover the News, Canada's largest city is doubling the number of speed cameras on its streets amid concerns over vandalism, which has seen some of the devices spray painted and chopped down. Yeah, imagine that. People being a little upset at being monitored. Yeah, that does happen. All right. And also, here we go. More backtracking already. Uncover News. Justin Elon Musk now admits the Department of Government Efficiency, or the DOGI, which he leads, or DOGI, which he leads, will not achieve the $2 trillion budget cuts he had repeatedly promised. No. Jeez. Anybody who knew anything with their salt knew that because, when you when you were left with just the discretionary spending, it would have been in the United States, it would have been hard to cut $2 trillion a year. You might have been able to cut $2 trillion over a decade, but $2 trillion a year, because without taking away all of Medicaid and all of Social Security and cutting in defense spending as well, yeah, not going to happen. Whoever bought that one from the get-go is proof that there's a sucker born every minute. That was never going to happen. Never going to happen. Kit Linda, keep all your important papers in a fireproof box you can grab and go. There you go. See? Kit Linda knows. Mademoiselle Fox, it's a good reminder, Douglas. After tornadoes in Ottawa, I have my bug out bag. Indeed. Very, very important. All right. And Kit Saucy with a bring the beavers back to the forest at the end of it. Yes, indeed. Bring the beavers back to the forest. All right. Kit Cassie here says, if you have school kids, Power School was cyber attacked today. Most schools divisions use Power School for admin of kids' info, grades, and health data. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much, Kit Saucy, for that update. All right, Kits and Cubs. I think that is what you had to say, and this is everything I've got for the show today. I'm just going to take a quick look through the rest of my notes to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything for you today. Oh, yes. One of the things I wanted to mention for the last couple of days, Kit Linda had actually made the comment, and I had missed it on the show. But when we were doing our year-end review, Kit Linda did mention in terms of a sports story of the year, the success of the PWHL. And we can expand that to the expansion of women's sports in general, because we had the PWHL, the new soccer league, Super Soccer League that's coming in Canada. There's a baseball league 16 for women coming in the United States, and the new Toronto Tempo WNBA franchise. So a lot going on there. So yes, that was a good call, Kit Linda. I had missed it, and I think it might have been Kit Linda as well, but somebody else in terms of the arts moment of the year, which I would have rolled up in the sports moment with the Olympics, but I do think I forgot to mention it outright. But it was Celine Dion singing with her own voice live for the first time in a few years, and doing it remarkably well. Two very, very, very important mentions that should have been on my list, and that I should have thought of myself when I was compiling it, and I did not. So I thank you for raising those two up, because they definitely did deserve mention. Couple of other little tidbits before we go, because I knew I had a couple of other things for you. The hottest 10 years recorded in human history are the last 10 years. The average person experienced 41 more days of dangerous heat last year, but for the areas hardest, or in that period, I guess, as an average. But for the areas hardest hit, that number was greater than 130, and that includes data for last year. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "I can officially report that we have just endured a decade of deadly heat. The top 10 hottest years on record have happened in the last 10 years, including 2024. This is climate breakdown in real time. We must uh, exit this road to ruin, and we have no time to lose. In 2025, countries must put the world on a safer path by dramatically slashing emissions and supporting the transition to a renewable future. It is essential and it is possible." The Deputy Secretary of the General the Deputy Secretary General of the World Meteorological Association is quoted as saying, "Because of record high concentrations of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, that the world is committed to rising temperatures for many, many years to come." Um, the organization World Weather Attribution studies weather events and found that 21 of the 26 climate events that it had studied had been intensified by climate change. So, in other words, 21 of the 26 they chose to study, they were able to assess through models and calculations that they were worse than they would have been without the effects of climate change. So, again, when we're talking about adapting, and you know, this is unfortunately our future. And as the person from the deputy secretary of the World Meteorological Association, some of these are baked in for many, many years to come. In the United States, with regard to Trump's sentencing, which will be tomorrow, um, and when he was foreshadowing what would happen, Judge Merchan is quoted as saying this. And I wanted to read it to you because there's a sentence in this that's particularly important. Quote, "Now, while this court, as a matter of law, must not make any determination on sentencing prior to giving the parties and defendant an opportunity to be heard, it seems proper at this juncture to make known the court's inclination not to impose any sentence of incarceration, a sentence authorized by the conviction, but when the prosecutors concede they no longer view as practicable recommendation. As such, in balancing the need for mentioned considerations in conjunction with the underlying concerns of the presidential immunity doctrine, a sentence of an unconditional discharge, which means no jail, no fine, no probation, no conditions placed upon him, which he must comply with." So, um, the a sentence of unconditional discharge appears to be the most viable solution to ensure finality and allow the defendant to pursue his appellate options, which he would not be able to pursue unless the sentence had actually been delivered, because Trump's next step is now trying to get the sentence expunged or reversed, saying that he never did this and he was never found guilty at all. So he's going to try to bring that to the Supreme Court and see if they'll indulge him there. Now, in that pre-sentencing decision, um, that Judge Merchan thought it was appropriate to make known at this juncture, he does say that a sentence of incarceration would be authorized by this conviction. So that gives me the impression that were it not for the fact he was president, Judge Merchan would be sentencing him to some jail time. Just let that sink in. Oh, my word. And in honor of Jimmy Carter, Air Force One will be redubbed Air Mission 39, or had been redubbed Mission Air 39, to fly the remains of Jimmy Carter to the Capitol's Rotunda, where he lied in state on the same structure that was used to hold the casket of Abraham Lincoln back in the day. For our American friends and those around the world who were affected positively by all the good deeds and good works of former president and now the late President Carter. Our thoughts are with you. Our thoughts are with you. He was a good man. He was just a good man, and as we mentioned on our show, uh, the world is not better for having lost him. But all the honors, all the love, all the respect that are due to him should come today. And I know that there will be some people that will be doing their damnedest to pull focus from what an example of what a good president, and even more importantly, what a good post president should be. A man who is the embodiment of public service, right to the end. There's a lot of people that don't want the juxtaposition of the compare and contrast movement right now. So expect some people to be attempting to pull focus today with regard to that. All right, kids and cubs. That is the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is very, very precious. It's gold, and you have the mouths from which we want the word to come. And Kit Uncover, thank you so much for everything you are doing. You're almost like a mini marketing department unto yourself. We thank you for all that you're doing to share the news and just to spread the beaver so that everyone knows about us. Love, all the love. Thank you. And Kits and Cubs, if you are on the socials, if you can help us by sharing the links to our show and writing a little something when you share it, not just share the link or not just like them, but share it yourself and saying, I like this show, or I think you should watch this, or whatever it is that you would put in. I don't want to put the words in your mouth or tell you what to say, or don't watch this. This is terrible. If you think that too. But if you could share them with a comment and not as opposed to just like or just retweeting without a comment, that helps us a lot. And we appreciate all of you who help us that way. Good morning, Environmental Coffee House. Or you could do, if you happen to have a podcast like Environmental Coffee House does, and give us a shout out. And by the way, Kits and Cubs, if you're listening on audio and you are interested by things having to do with the environment and want some very serious chat about what's going on, The Real Deal, that's a good podcast to follow. I know I've plugged it before this week, but it's just really, really, really good. So it is worth your time. It's definitely so nice. It's worth plugging twice. Let's put it that way. All right. Now, if you do not want to miss an episode, Kits and Cubs, you do not have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl, who has sponsored our pod page. And if you scan the QR code that I just magically made appear on the screen rather seamlessly, I'm quite proud of myself for having done that. That will bring you right there. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, you get the audio version of our podcast directly coming to you. You don't have to go look for it. It just comes directly to your inbox, makes it or up to your wherever feed that you are listening. I can't speak all of a sudden. Whatever feed or program you use to listen to podcasts, it comes directly there, and you don't have to go looking for us. We make it very simple for you, and we thank you so very much for subscribing. It means a lot to us. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, well, then the QR code that has just appeared brings you to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where if you have the time on mornings, you can join the best DAMFAM and all of podcasting for some chat that goes on at the same time here. Really great bunch of people, very supportive, knowledgeable, intelligent, and love to have a good laugh, I guess, and even cheeky. So, hey, thank you, Kit Cassie, for the super chat donation. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So if you do that, you can surf down to our YouTube page by scanning that QR code. And while you're there, well, we have some buttons like share and subscribe. And if you could click them, that would really help us out with the algorithm. Thank you so very much for all that you do to help us with that. Good. Oh, and some nice compliments here from the kits on me flying solo today. So thank you so much. Now, if you want to help us in yet another way, Kits and Cubs, and let's say that would be financially, because you would like to make put something in our pockets that jingles and makes nice shiny sounds. Well, you can do that by going to our coffee page. And that's the QR code that has just appeared now. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And if you go there, you will find the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. It's essentially our tip jar where we ask you, if you like our content and want to support us and encourage us to do more, that you give us an add a beaver and an add a grizzly by throwing a couple of loonies and toonies in there to buy us either a cup of hot chocolate or a cup of dark and bitter coffee. Or maybe a Guinness or a Caesar when we're having a bit of a rougher day. But no, seriously, it's to help us underwrite the costs of the show. But we like to say it's to keep your beaver moist. So if you do not want, if the concept or the very idea of dry beaver is just something that's unacceptable to you, then please scan that QR code or make a visit to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, and leave us a little something to show your appreciation. And we thank you very much for all your contributions. And while you are at our coffee page, if you can't make a contribution, please do subscribe, because as we mentioned, we are planning to make it more like our website. So if you want to keep on top of all news, Beaver, and all our shows and all our personalities and that type of stuff, it'll all be there. So all in one spot. So we hope that you are able to subscribe to our coffee page as well. Now, if you're not able to make a financial donation but are still subscribing to our coffee page, hey, don't worry. Don't worry at all, because again, by subscribing, you are giving us the gift of your attention and your participation. And that is the gift that means the most to us, because without you, we're just two dudes talking to ourselves. That's not much fun. We'd rather you be here. And we love to hear from you. So write to us. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. You can also write us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge at True Eager, or at the Bad Place on the Shitter, also at True Eager, the original home on Facebook, True North Eager Beaver. And if you're listening on YouTube, we have a comment section right down below where you can leave us a little something. So please let me know what you think, good, bad, or ugly. If it's ugly, please be gentle. I'm a very sensitive and tender beaver. But we do appreciate beautiful compliments and constructive criticism. We want to know how we're coming across, and if there are things that you would like to see on the show, or things see more of, less of, that type of stuff. All of it helps us make a better show for you, because we consider it a family show. So it's your show too, and we want your input. So thank you so much for everything that you contribute. All right, since I'm alone, I guess I have to, let's see, mine my own gray matter for a little, some words of wisdom. And let's say, kids and cubs, I am going to say uh, interesting wisdom, because this week I have had a very good week on the curling ice. I've won every match I've played this week, and yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't get to play the match. We won it by default, sadly, because one of our two opponents could not show up yesterday for our doubles match. But when you have a week where you go 4-0 or 4 for 4, take the win. Don't go looking for reasons to be down. Don't go looking for things you could have done better. Don't just, you went 4 for 4. You had a damn good week. Pat yourself on the back and hope the trend's your friend and that it continues. Right? In other words, when things are going right, don't ask too many questions. Just enjoy the ride. Okay? Live in the present. That's my best words of wisdom for the day, because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. How about taking some time to write your members of provincial parliament and your members of federal parliament, and letting it be known that you want our leaders to not be reacting to everything that Trump says, that you are not, as a Canadian, so insecure that you feel that every time he opens his mouth, we must respond with something, especially that we must give him something every time he opens his mouth. Because that guy never shuts up. And if we need to give him something every time he opens his mouth, we will have nothing left by the time he's gone. So, yeah, how about that? Just write to them and say, yeah, you know what? Don't be afraid to say no. Don't humor him. Don't entertain the stupid stuff. And don't validate his premises. All right, kids and cubs, that is the end. So I guess it is now my turn to officially cue the cock. And I'll see you on the other side, hopefully with an Easter egg, maybe a dad joke. Who knows? Maybe something about a Canadian who's made us proud. Who knows? We'll have to see. It's a mystery. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Is this the one? Yeah. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, little dad jokes for you. Son, Dad, can I eat the ice cream in the freezer? Dad, I guess, but don't you think it's a little cold in there? I love it. Ah, hey, did you hear that joke about tofu? It was tasteless. And unfortunately, in the Canadians that make us proud department, unfortunately, neither of the two Canadians that were in the qualifying rounds for the Australian Open will make it through into the main draw. Playing with 3D, it's right here. The dad jokes book is right here. I had to draw from it. So we will have the usual big names in the main draw when it starts for real. And that's all I've got for you today, kids and cubs. So you go on and have yourself a most beaverific day. And Matteo, oh yes, Miss, you had a little note I saw earlier about Matteo saying, have you know that Matteo asked me a few times this morning if you and Paul were proud of him? I told him everyone in the DAMFAM is, made him smile. Matteo, my friend, yes, if you see me right now, if you can see this, Mama shows this to you. Your good friend, Mr. Beaver, is very, very, very proud of you. You were brave and you were a gentleman. And you know what? All I have is big hugs for you because I am so proud of you. You did very, very well. And if Mr. Grizzly was here today, he would tell you the same thing, I am sure. All right. So you just focus on getting better so that you can get back to the things that are really important. Playing, being good to your mom and dad and your sisters, and doing well at school. Okay? I love you very much. All right, everyone. That's the end of the show. See you tomorrow.